In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a simple way to create cartoon fire without the need of any plugins or time-consuming keyframing. We will be recreating a very cartoonish looking fire, very similar to this. As you will see as we're creating it, you have a lot of ability to change the velocity, the size, the direction even of the fire, so you can make it your own, you can adapt it to the look and feel of what you're going for, but let's just jump in and get started and see how this has been made. I'm going to start by creating a new composition. I'm just going to change my background color to just a dark blue. Okay. Then after that, all I'm going to do is create one more composition, and this time I'm going to make it 200 by 200. This size doesn't matter too much, but try and keep it small, and it needs to be square, so I'm going to go 200 by 200. Okay. And this is where we're going to create the base of our fire, which will be a circle. So I'm going to select our ellipse tool and double click. And that's created a circle the size of our composition. You can change the color, but I'm going to stick with this yellow for now. This won't matter too much what color it is, as we will change it in our main composition. Comp3, which I will just rename fire build, just so I know which is which. And let's call this fire shape. So let's go back to our fire build and drag it in our fire shape. So we can turn this off and let's create a new solid. Again, this can be any color, it doesn't matter, but let's just call this fire. Make sure it's your comp size and OK. And let's go up to our effects and presets and search for particle world. And here it is under simulation. So let's just drag this onto our fire. And this is how we're going to be creating the fire. So if you play this, you'll see that what this effect is just lots of particles where you can change the physics, size, and all of this just to create whatever you want. So let's go up to our effects, and under grid and guides, let's just turn off grid, as we don't need that. Horizon and axis box as well. Let's just turn those off. That's all we need for that grid and guide section. So birth rate, this is the speed at which new particles are created. So let's just go for 0.2, as we don't want ours to be produced too often or too quickly. These can be changed later. The longevity is the amount of seconds that each particle exists. So I'm just going to have that on 2 for now, for 2 seconds. So after 2 seconds, our particles will die or fade off. Next, let's go to our physics and make this look a bit more like some fire. So you will see this animation drop down. So let's click this drop down and we have the lucky option of fire. So let's select fire. And if I now play this, you'll see that, let me just zoom out. As you will see, the particles are now going up towards the top of our composition, exactly as fire would do. So already it's looking much better. But let's go to our other options in physics, and let's change the velocity to 0.2, as these are going way too fast. As you would have noticed, that also brings it in width-wise as well. If I brought that down to 0.1, it would come in a bit further as well. Up to 2, it would go very wide, and that is because our direction isn't linear, so the higher the velocity, the further out each one will travel, if that makes sense. But for now, let's leave that at 0.2. Inherit velocity, let's make this 25, and that's a percentage, and that is taken from the first one, so each particle will inherit 25% of that initial velocity. So there will be some variation in speed, just to give it a more natural look. Gravity, as you'll see, these are moving quite far up, so let's bring our gravity right down from 0.5 to 0.05, and let's see how that looks. Still a bit too quick for my liking, I might even half that to 0.025. Yeah, it's not too bad. As you'll see, there's a very tornado-y sort of feel going on at the moment. It's got a lot of rotation. That is this extra, so I'm going to drop that down to 0.2. Let's see how that goes. I don't really want much movement at all. That's not too bad. I might even drop that down to 1.1. But yeah, let's leave it there for now. We can come back and change that later if we don't like how that looks. But for now, let's move on to the particle itself. So let's do the drop down for particle. And on this drop down, there are many options, but the one we want is textured square. And that is because we've created our own texture, which is the fire shape we made earlier, which was the circle. So we want textured square. And once you've selected that, you will then have the option to drop down this texture just beneath. And in this texture layer, we want to select our fire shape, or whatever you call your layer. And there are our circles. So let's play this through. You will see now that the particles are taken from our fire shape composition. So whatever is in here is what is being produced as the particles. Already that's quite close to what we had in our example, but what we will be doing is changing the birth size. So our birth size is the size it starts at its birth. So let's make this 0.5, double what it was initially. And see how that looks. What I'm going to do is scrub forward here to where they're all sort of already been born and press B just so our animation starts from here. I don't want any of this first section where they're just being born. I really just kind of want to start from where the fire's already going and it's already at its most full. So I'm just going to bring our beginning to here. Okay, that's not too bad. What I will do is now change the birth size to 0.5 as well. No, actually no. Let's bring that back down to 0.3 because I do want them to get smaller. And maybe bring our birth size to 0.75. No, let's bring that down to 0.6. Next up is our size variation, which is on 50. I'm just going to up that to 75, just so there's a bit more variety in size and they're not so linear. Let's play that again. That's looking a bit better to me. I don't like that we can see through these in the opacity, so I'm going to up our max opacity to 100, so they're all solid. And then under our colour map, birth to death, that's what we want. Birth colour, we want to be sort of a dark red, orangey colour, and then our death colour to be yellow. So kind of the opposite of what we had initially. And let's make that more red at the bottom. Okay, maybe that needs to be a bit more yellow. Okay, let's play that through. Now that we have this base, we can go back through to our physics and particle, and we can change our velocities and our resistance just to see if anything affects it in a positive or negative way. We can add some more spin in the extra. We can have the velocity a bit further out, so we can add that to 0.5. And I'm going to bring it back down to 0.2. And what I am going to do actually in Producer is change the position of our Y. I'm just going to bring that down slightly. I'm just going to bring our extra back down to 0.25 and just quickly show you this Producer drop down because I did forget to show you earlier. This is where we can change the position as you just saw me do, but we can also change the radius. So if I was to bring this to 0.5, you'll see it gets wider. So actually let's make that a bit bigger, 0.1. Let's see if we can just drag that out. So if you wanted a much wider fire, all you've got to do is change this radius. Same goes for the Y and even the Z. So I'm just going to drop that back down to 0.025 and just play this through one last time. And there we go. That is how we can create some very simple cartoonish fire in After Effects. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.